The telepathic alien peered into a human's mind and blushed. Jacob sat in the quiet control room of the space station, his fingers lightly tapping on the console. He had been stationed alone on this outpost for months now. The distant hum of machinery was the only sound that accompanied him. Out here, far from Earth, there was nothing but stars and silence. He glanced at the digital clock on the wall. 2:35 a.m. Another long shift, another lonely night. But as he was about to turn back to the screens, a strange sensation washed over him. A soft, whispering feeling at the edge of his thoughts. At first, he brushed it off. The isolation had begun to get to him, he thought. Maybe the space was playing tricks on his mind. His head felt fuzzy, his thoughts unfocused. He shook it off, focusing on the readings in front of him. But then it came again. This time it wasn't just a sensation. It was a voice, clear, like someone was standing right next to him, but there was no one in the room. "I can hear you." Jacob froze. His heart skipped a beat. He stood up from his chair, the sound of his pulse louder than anything around him. It was impossible. There was no one on this station except him. He checked the communication systems, but all was silent. No transmissions, no signals, nothing. He laughed nervously, muttering to himself, "Get a grip, Jacob. It's just the isolation messing with your head." But deep down, he knew it wasn't a glitch in the system. The voice felt real. The sensation of someone or something inside his mind was undeniable. His breath quickened and he stumbled back toward his desk, unsure of what to do next. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice shaky. Silence. Then the voice returned, softer this time. "I am here. I can feel your thoughts." Jacob's hands trembled as he turned toward the view of the stars outside. He could feel the weight of the silence pressing in around him. Was he going mad? He couldn't explain it, but he knew he wasn't imagining this. "Who are you?" he asked again, trying to steady his voice. "What are you?" The response was immediate, echoing through his mind like a thought that wasn't his own. "I am not like you." Jacob felt his breath catch in his throat. A shiver ran down his spine. His mind raced, trying to understand what was happening. Was this some kind of alien communication? Had someone or something infiltrated the station's systems? As if sensing his confusion, the voice continued. "I am a traveler. I have crossed the stars. But I have never encountered a mind like yours." Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. His mind was in overdrive, processing this new information. An alien, a being from beyond the stars, was speaking directly to him. But how was it possible? Could this be real? It felt like a dream, or worse, a nightmare. He stood still, staring at the console in front of him, too afraid to look away. This was more than just a voice in his head. It felt intimate, like the alien was inside him, probing his thoughts, reading his deepest fears and desires. I don't understand," Jacob whispered, his voice barely audible. "How are you doing this? How are you in my mind?" "I see you," came the voice again, calm and soothing. "I see your thoughts, your emotions. I have touched them, felt them. Your mind is complex. It is unlike any I have ever encountered." Jacob didn't know how to respond. He felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead, his skin tingling with the unnaturalness of the situation. How could something like this exist? How could an alien communicate in this way? As he stood frozen, his mind racing with 1,000 questions, a strange warmth suddenly filled him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but there was something comforting about it. The alien's presence wasn't threatening. It felt curious. Curious about him. Jacob closed his eyes, trying to center himself. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The voice paused for a moment, as if considering his question. "I want to understand you. I want to know more about your mind, your thoughts." Jacob's breath caught. Was this alien simply studying him? Or was it something more? He wanted to pull away, to shut it out, but he found he couldn't. Something inside him, something deep down, felt drawn to it. It was like the alien had opened a door to a part of his mind he didn't even know existed. "I don't know if I can," Jacob started, his mind still reeling from the sheer impossibility of it all. "I don't know what's happening." The voice responded gently. "You are afraid. I feel your fear, but you need not be afraid." Jacob's pulse began to slow as the alien's voice became softer, almost calming. It was as though the alien wasn't just speaking to him with words, but with something deeper, something that reached into his very soul. And then, as the moments passed, something strange happened. The warmth inside him grew, and with it, a sense of embarrassment. The alien was blushing. He could sense it, feel it. An alien far more advanced than humanity was experiencing the strange emotion of blushing. In that moment, everything changed. The alien was not just a distant cold being from the stars. It was something else. Something far more human than Jacob could ever have imagined. The voice spoke again, this time tinged with something unfamiliar. I have never felt this before, this warmth. And for the first time, Jacob wasn't sure who was more confused, the alien or himself. Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within him since the alien had first spoken to him. The voice lingered in his mind, echoing softly like a whisper he couldn't escape. He sat in the control room, his hands resting on the console, but his thoughts were far from the monitors in front of him. The alien's presence was like a shadow that stretched into every corner of his mind, filling the space around him. I am still here, the voice said, once again in his thoughts, as though it had never left. I have been listening. I have been understanding. Jacob flinched. He hadn't realized how deeply the alien was in his mind, how completely it could sense his every thought. He thought of the conversation from last night, the feeling of being touched, not physically but mentally. It was almost like the alien was inside him, reading him like an open book. I don't know how to deal with this, Jacob admitted aloud, his voice shaking. I don't know if I can keep going with this connection. You feel overwhelmed, the voice responded, calm and understanding. I understand, but I need you to trust me. I am not here to harm you. I am here to learn. Jacob shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. The reality of the situation felt unreal. An alien somewhere out there in the vastness of space was sharing its thoughts with him. And not just that, somehow it was beginning to feel inhuman. Learn about what? Jacob asked, his voice barely a whisper. Learn about your mind, the alien replied. Your thoughts, your emotions, your fears. They are complex and strange to me. But there is something beautiful about them. I have never encountered such a thing. Jacob wasn't sure if he should be flattered or terrified. His mind was a mix of conflicting emotions, but the alien's words resonated in a strange way. It wasn't just curious anymore, it was fascinated. It was touched by what it found in him. I don't know if I can let you do this, Jacob muttered, trying to keep control of his racing thoughts. I don't know if I can let you into my mind like this. The alien didn't respond immediately, but Jacob could feel a strange sensation, like the air around him thickened. It was not threatening. In fact, it felt oddly comforting, like a warm presence gently coaxing him into accepting its intrusion. I will not force you, the alien finally spoke, its voice softer this time, almost tender. I only want to understand. You are not alone. I am here with you as much as you allow me to be. Jacob sat back in his chair, staring at the walls around him. The cold metal walls of the space station suddenly felt less oppressive. The alien's presence, strange and unfamiliar, wasn't as frightening as it had been before. Instead of feeling invaded, he felt connected, like they were sharing something profound, something beyond just words or thoughts. What is it that you want to learn? Jacob asked, his voice steadier now. The alien paused for a moment, and then its voice was back in his head, sounding almost hesitant. I want to understand what makes you, you. What are your desires, your motivations? I want to understand what drives you. Jacob's thoughts swirled as he tried to answer. What did drive him? The question seemed simple at first, but now that he was asked, it felt complicated. What did he really want in life? He had never asked himself that question in this way before. He tried to focus on the alien's words. I want to understand the universe, he admitted slowly. I want to know why we're here. I've always been curious, but it's hard to make sense of it all. I guess that's why I'm out here. To find something more than just the silence of space. There was a long pause from the alien, as if it was processing what Jacob had said. Then the voice returned, quieter now, almost with a hint of sadness. I understand that feeling. I have traveled across many worlds, seen countless civilizations, yet even I do not know the answers. I only seek to understand and to feel. Jacob blinked, the last word hitting him harder than expected. Feel? But you're an alien. How could you feel? The alien didn't answer right away. Jacob felt a sudden rush of emotion, not his own, but the alien's. It was a complex mixture of confusion, awe, and something deeper. Something like longing. I have never known true emotion, the alien confessed, its voice distant. Not until now. Not until I touched your mind. Jacob felt a tightness in his chest. This was no longer just a scientific exploration. This was something more personal. The alien wasn't just learning about him. It was sharing in his experiences, his emotions. I don't know how to help you, Jacob said, his voice small. I don't even know how to understand this myself. I don't need your help, Jacob, the alien said softly. I only need your trust. Jacob closed his eyes, letting the weight of the situation settle over him. He felt as if he were standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. Part of him still wanted to pull away, to break the connection before it went too deep. But another part of him, a part he hadn't expected, didn't want to let go. This alien, this being from another galaxy, had seen him in a way no one else ever had. All right, Jacob finally said, his voice low but resolute. I'll trust you. For the first time since the alien's voice had entered his mind, Jacob felt a strange warmth spread through him. It wasn't just the alien's presence anymore. It was a shared connection, a bond that neither of them fully understood, but one that they both felt. The alien responded with a soft, almost imperceptible word in Jacob's mind. Thank you. And for the first time, Jacob realized that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't so alone in the vastness of space after all. Days passed, and Jacob found himself slipping further into the strange connection with the alien. What had started as a series of curious, cautious exchanges had now become a deeper, more personal experience. The alien's voice no longer felt like an intrusion. It was like a constant presence in his mind, a voice he had come to expect as much as his own. I have been thinking, the alien spoke one evening, its tone thoughtful, almost contemplative, about your world, about your people. Jacob glanced out the window of the space station, staring at the distant stars. The silence of space seemed to weigh more heavily on him now, as if it were waiting for something profound to happen. What have you been thinking? Jacob asked, curious. I have been learning, the alien replied. I have seen the way your people live, how they struggle. I have seen your emotions, your joys, your pains. They are intense, stronger than I have ever known. Jacob's mind raced, caught between awe and confusion. The alien was learning about humanity, about all the aspects of being human, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the terrifying. Why are you telling me this? Jacob asked, his voice soft. What do you want from me? I want to understand, the alien replied, how you deal with your pain. I want to know how you survive the hardest parts of your life. Jacob paused, considering the question. How did humans survive pain? He had been through his own share of hardship, loneliness, and fear. But it was something everyone had to face sooner or later. He hadn't realized it, but the alien's question had made him confront those hidden parts of himself, the parts he had kept buried for so long. I guess we just keep going, Jacob said finally. We survive because there's always something to look forward to, even if it's small. The little things, the things that make life worth living. The alien's voice was silent for a moment, as if it were processing Jacob's words. You find meaning in the smallest moments? It asked, intrigued. Jacob thought about it. He had spent years alone on this station, away from family, friends, and the life he once knew. The days blurred together, but there were moments, small, fleeting moments, that made it bearable. The view of a star burning brightly against the dark canvas of space. The sound of a distant, comforting hum that meant everything was functioning as it should. A memory of a conversation with his sister back on Earth. Those were the things that kept him going. I guess so, Jacob answered, a hint of sadness creeping into his voice. Those little moments make it easier. The alien responded softly. I think I understand now. I have felt those moments too. Through you. Jacob's heart skipped a beat. The alien somehow had experienced his memories and emotions. It wasn't just learning about him, it was feeling his experiences. How is that possible? Jacob asked, his mind spinning. How can you feel what I feel? I don't know, the alien admitted, its voice quiet. But I feel it. When I connect with you, I am not just reading your thoughts. I am experiencing them. The pain, the joy, it is like I am becoming part of you. Jacob felt a chill run through him. He had known the alien was in his mind, but to hear it admit that it was feeling his emotions, that was something new. Something unsettling. He had thought it was merely an observer, a curious mind reaching out to understand humanity. But now it seemed the alien had become more than that. Does it hurt? Jacob asked, a sense of guilt creeping over him. He didn't want to be the cause of pain for the alien, especially since it had already shared so much of itself with him. I feel what you feel, the alien responded. But it is not pain. It is the understanding. It is the price of knowing. Jacob was silent for a moment, contemplating the alien's words. He had never considered the possibility that this connection, this strange bond they shared, could be so intimate. He was beginning to wonder if he was the one learning from the alien, or if it was the other way around. I don't understand, Jacob admitted, his voice soft. How could you understand our emotions? You're not like us. The alien's voice was gentle. I am not like you, but I want to be. I want to understand what makes you who you are. Your feelings, your desires, your struggles. I want to learn and I want to feel. For the first time, Jacob realized that the alien was not just a cold, distant being. It had its own desires, its own curiosity, its own need to connect. It wasn't just studying him, it was searching for something deeper. Something it had never experienced before. What happens now? Jacob asked, his heart racing. Where do we go from here? The alien hesitated. I don't know. I feel torn. I have seen the darkness in your world, the wars, the pain, the suffering. But I have also seen the light. The hope, the love, your capacity for growth. It is something extraordinary. Jacob swallowed hard. The alien was right. Humanity was a species of contradictions. It was a species capable of great destruction, but also of remarkable resilience and love. The alien, in its search for understanding, had found that balance. But it wasn't just learning about humanity. It was learning about itself. I don't know what you're looking for, Jacob said quietly, but I think you found it, at least part of it. The alien's voice was full of quiet wonder. Maybe I have found it through you, through your mind. Jacob closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the connection between them. It was no longer just about curiosity. It was about something deeper. Something that went beyond the simple exchange of thoughts. The alien had reached a point where it was starting to understand what it meant to feel, to be human. I think we've both learned something, Jacob said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. And for the first time, Jacob felt the alien's presence not as an intruder, but as something familiar, something that had become a part of him. And perhaps he had become a part of it. Jacob had never thought he would find himself in a situation like this. The silence of space, which had once been comforting, now felt oppressive. His mind was no longer his own. It was shared with the alien, an entity that had seen his deepest thoughts, understood his fears, and felt his emotions. It was a connection that had become inseparable, yet Jacob still couldn't fully grasp what it meant. I have been thinking. The alien's voice entered his mind once again, breaking the quiet stillness of the room. There are many things about your world that I do not understand. Jacob paused, leaning against the console, staring at the dark expanse of space outside. What do you mean? He asked, his voice tired but curious. The alien's response was calm but laced with an unspoken tension. I have seen your pain, your suffering. I have felt it. But I do not understand how you endure it, how you survive the darkest moments. Jacob closed his eyes, the weight of the question pressing down on him. We survive because we don't have any other choice, he said quietly. Because we believe things can get better, even when they seem impossible. For a moment, the alien was silent. The weight of its thoughts was palpable, like a presence inside Jacob's mind. I do not believe your world is only darkness, it said finally. I have felt your hope. I have felt your strength. But I also see the destruction that surrounds you. Your species is capable of great violence, and I fear that violence is growing. Jacob's stomach tightened. He had known the alien was aware of the wars, the injustice, the suffering that plagued Earth. He had tried to shut those thoughts out of his mind, to pretend that this connection with the alien was just an isolated experience, something unique to the two of them. But now the alien was confronting him with the truth of humanity's darkest side. I know, Jacob whispered. I know what we're capable of. But not everyone is like that. Not everyone wants to hurt others. The alien's voice softened, but there was an edge to it now, a quiet intensity. I have seen the battles, the hatred, the oppression. It is difficult to ignore the truth when it is so overwhelming. Jacob's heart began to race. He had never thought about it this way. The alien, despite its vast intelligence and experience, was struggling to understand the intricacies of human behavior. To it, the violence of humanity seemed inescapable, all-consuming. Jacob wanted to reassure it, to tell it that there was more to Earth than wars and cruelty, but the alien's words had struck a chord. It was right in many ways. Humanity was a species at war with itself. "Do you think it's too late?" Jacob asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien was quiet for a long time. Jacob could feel its thoughts swirling like a storm just beyond his reach. Finally, the alien spoke again, its voice calm but heavy with the weight of what it had seen. "I do not know. But I fear the conflict is not just on your planet. It is within you, within all of you. The darkness you carry is not just external. It is something inside. And I do not know how to help you with it." Jacob's breath caught in his throat. He had always known that humanity's struggle wasn't just about the outside world. It was about the battle within each person. He had felt it himself every day as he sat alone on the space station, far from home, but hearing the alien speak of it so plainly with such understanding made it all the more real. "It's not easy," Jacob admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "We fight with ourselves every day, but we try to do better." "I see the struggle," the alien said quietly. "I see the fight between light and darkness. But I also see something else, something beautiful." Jacob felt a strange warmth wash over him. The alien's words were different now, softer. For the first time, he didn't feel like it was just observing him. It was seeing him, truly seeing him. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice uncertain. "I have seen the kindness in your heart," the alien replied. "I have seen your capacity to love, to protect, to fight for others. You are not all darkness, Jacob. You are not the violence you fear." Jacob swallowed hard, feeling his chest tighten. The alien's words resonated deeply within him, stirring something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. It was the same hope that had kept him going all these months. The same hope that humanity had clung to throughout its history. But how do we change? Jacob asked. How do we stop ourselves from destroying everything? The alien paused, its thoughts heavy in the silence. "That is a question I cannot answer. Only you can answer it. But I believe, Jacob, I believe that if you choose to fight for the light, you can overcome the darkness. You just have to make the choice." Jacob's heart thudded in his chest. The alien was asking him, challenging him to believe in something greater than the fear and violence that seemed to rule the world. For the first time, he felt a surge of something stronger than despair. Determination. The alien, despite its otherworldly nature, had shown him something he hadn't fully realized until now. The power to choose. The power to fight for something better. "I will choose," Jacob said, his voice firm. "I will choose to fight for the light." As he spoke those words, Jacob felt the alien's presence shift. It was no longer just a visitor, an observer of his mind. It had become something else. Something deeper. Something that, in its own way, had learned from him just as much as he had learned from it. And for the first time, Jacob felt not just the alien's thoughts, but its emotions. The warmth, the understanding, and the quiet hope that now connected them both. But just as the connection deepened, a dark thought crept into Jacob's mind. A thought he couldn't shake. What if the alien was right? What if the darkness was too great, too ingrained in humanity to overcome? What if, despite their best efforts, the violence would always win? Before he could voice his concerns, a new presence stirred in the depths of his mind. Something else, something more sinister. The alien had sensed it too. "Jacob," the alien's voice trembled in his thoughts. "Something is coming. Something is watching." Jacob's blood ran cold. The warmth he had felt moments ago was gone, replaced by a chilling sense of urgency. The struggle was far from over, and something even darker was about to unfold. Jacob stared out of the station's small window, the vast expanse of space stretching endlessly before him. The stars flickered like distant promises, yet for all their beauty, they no longer filled him with wonder. Instead, they seemed cold, distant, indifferent. His mind was consumed by the alien's last words. Something was coming. Something was watching. The presence in his mind, which had once been a curious, almost comforting companion, now felt heavy, tense. The alien's voice had shaken, a tremor of fear he could no longer ignore. "I have felt it," the alien said softly, its voice distant, almost pained. "The others, they are aware of our connection. They will not allow it to continue." Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. What do you mean, the others? He asked, his voice tight with fear. There are beings, forces, far greater than you or I. They do not want to see your kind change, Jacob. They do not want to see your species find redemption. They will come for you, for both of us, the alien replied, its tone resigned. Jacob's mind raced. He had always known there were dangers in space, threats that lurked beyond the familiar. But this was something entirely different. The alien was not just talking about enemies from another world. It was talking about forces that seemed to control everything, watching them from the shadows. The fear, once buried deep in his chest, surged up like a tidal wave. The connection he had felt with the alien was no longer just a bond. It was a liability, a weakness, something that could be exploited by those who wanted to see humanity fall. So what do we do? Jacob asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How do we fight them? How do we stop them from coming? The alien's response was slow, measured. I do not know. They are powerful. They have the ability to destroy, to erase entire civilizations. I have felt their presence before, and I have learned to fear them. Jacob clenched his fists, frustration rising within him. But we can't just give up, can we? We can't just let them destroy everything, not after everything we fought for. I know, the alien responded softly. But we must be prepared, Jacob. If we do not act now, it may be too late. The weight of the alien's words hung in the air, suffocating Jacob. He had come to care for this being, this telepathic entity that had opened his mind, made him see the world in ways he never had before. But now everything was on the line. Humanity's future was in his hands. The stakes were higher than he ever could have imagined. What do you need from me? Jacob asked, determination creeping into his voice. The alien paused before answering. I need your help, Jacob. I need you to choose. To decide whether you are willing to risk everything, to stand against the forces that seek to destroy us, or to let them have what they want. Jacob's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The alien was asking him to make a choice, to take a stand, to fight against an enemy that could annihilate everything in its path. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about what they stood for. What humanity stood for. He thought of the people he had left behind, his family, his friends, the world he had once known. Despite everything, despite the wars and violence, there was still hope. There was still love, still kindness, still beauty in the world. He couldn't let that be erased. He couldn't let humanity be wiped from existence. I'll choose, Jacob said, his voice steady. I'll fight. The alien's presence shifted, and Jacob felt a rush of emotion flood his mind. It wasn't just gratitude. It was something deeper, something that could only be described as relief. Thank you, the alien said quietly. You have given me hope. Jacob turned away from the window, his resolve solidifying. There was no turning back now. Whatever happened next, he had made his choice. And he wasn't going to let the alien down. He wasn't going to let humanity down. But just as he began to feel the weight of the decision lift from his shoulders, a new wave of fear washed over him. It wasn't just the alien's presence that was in danger anymore. It was his. It was everything. The forces that the alien had spoken of were real. They were out there watching. And if they were as powerful as the alien feared, Jacob knew they wouldn't hesitate to strike. They will come soon, the alien warned, its voice filled with urgency. You must prepare. The battle will not be easy. Jacob stood tall, a sense of determination settling over him. He was no longer just a man stranded on a space station, unsure of his place in the universe. He was part of something much greater now. A fight for survival, for the future of humanity, for the future of the alien race he had come to care for. We'll be ready, Jacob said, more to himself than the alien. We'll be ready for them. For the first time since this connection had begun, Jacob no longer felt alone. The alien, though far from human, had become his ally, his friend, his partner in this strange, impossible battle. Together they could face whatever came. Together they would fight for the future. And as the alien's presence filled his mind once more, Jacob felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. This wasn't just a war for survival. It was a war for everything they had fought for every small moment of beauty, of love that had ever existed. The enemy may have been watching, but Jacob and the alien were ready. They would stand together no matter the odds.